I'm doing great this morning. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I don't look like Tim, but
No, a little bit different.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see the snow kind of missed us and moved up north a little bit, and it's mostly rain out there. I think there's a little bit of icing conditions this morning, but I think other than that, everything's pretty much moved out, and it's going to be rain from here on out. I think wasn't there one day there was kind of for a little bit of ice, maybe Wednesday morning or something. They were saying might be a little bit there.
Yeah.
But it's I'm sure glad it didn't ice over like they predicted it to do.
Amen to
Yeah.
that.
So that cold air just kind of moved on out of here, and I think a lot of people was glad to see that.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Did you have a good weekend?
Did.
Good.
Even though we didn't go to church anywhere because of the water problem at Valley Town.
Yeah,
and,
at Valley Town, we had some water issues yesterday and had to cancel services. And my wife and I, we went over to Little Brasstown and went over there yesterday morning and had a good time with Alden and the folks there at Little Brasstown. So we had a good time. We had a good Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I got good. I got candy from Daddy.
We're good.
And from DJ, I had some special one-on-one time.
There you go.
Which is awesome because that's hard for him to,
Right.
to actually want to quit playing on his computer long enough to hang out with Mom.
I understand that. Well, we're just going right along like normal with the sheriff's office and things happening. We've just released some press releases this morning of some different things that happened last week, and a lot of people have probably seen that we've had a major arrest on a sex offense case, and some serious bonds were set on that and some serious charges. And a lot of people ask about that and have been calling, want to know about this press release, and there are certain things we have to release, but there's things that we kind of want to hold back on this a little bit just for the victim's sake. You know,
Right.
there's a lot of things on these sex offense cases that people want to know about, and we probably could release more information about, but we want to always take the victims in consideration on this and not broadcast that out. Anytime you have child offenses, especially in those kind of things, those children still have to go to school with other children. Those other children's parents talk about things, and so we don't want to create a situation where kids are having to be subjected to ridicule or anything else because of information that's been put out. So I just hope people out there understand that when they see these kind of cases, that we are trying to protect the victims to the best of our ability when
Right.
releasing those things. But we also had some drug arrests. We had some different things happen last week. We're still constantly fighting that, still constantly pushing the drug issue here in Cherokee County. We are doing everything we can to try to help combat the situation that we're facing out there. And even though, I kind of joke with people and tell them sometimes it's like fighting a forest fire with a squirt gun, but it is the way it feels sometimes. You think you've kind of making headway and progress, and then you look back and somebody else is taking their place and starting all over again. But it's a never-ending battle that we don't have room to quit on. We have to just keep fighting it and have to keep going. So our guys are doing a great job out there as far as combating the drug issue and the drug problems, and we have made some headway. We have been making some great strides on that. One of the things I was kind of proud of on this is one of our local dealers that we have arrested a couple different times. He's not from here. He's from another area, actually from Atlanta is where he's from. And he made the comment the last time we arrested him that he was leaving Cherokee County and never coming back. He was going back to Atlanta. And because we was too hard on him up here and catching him every time he turned around. So that's what we like to hear. We like to hear if that we're going to make it so hard on them, they're going to move out of here and go somewhere else. So,
Good.
so we're making great headways on those type of things. Had a good drink of water there. Yeah, we're that is a never-ending battle, though, and we just kind of it's a passion of mine. It's a passion of the people that's working at the sheriff's office to try to rid this community of this infestation. We have children, we have grandchildren coming up, and I don't have any grandchildren yet, but hopefully it won't be too much longer. My daughter's a sophomore in college, and she's got a couple more years to graduate, so hopefully not too much longer after that. We might have some grandkids, but I still try to make decisions and still try to do things that would help our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that's coming along, that they have a good place to live and a good community to live in.
Right.
And that's kind of what our goal is on this. And we have to get in a place as elected officials I share this with a lot of my other elected official friends that we talk to about this, and we've got to get to a place as elected officials that we look beyond our terms. We look beyond even this year about what would be good for this year, and kind of make plans for things 5 years down the road, 10 years, 20 years down the road, years that we're not going to be here, that somebody else is going to be filling this position. We still need to put plans in effect that's going to benefit those people and benefit those generations, because we're responsible today for getting the ball rolling on that. So that's kind of what we look for when we're trying to combat these drug issues and theft issues and all these different things that are in the county. We just kind of try to keep our head up and keep fighting on these things. So we keep trying to keep that goal in mind, as we just want to make this community a better place.
Yeah, because we, although we may not be around,
Right.
20 years from now, if you've cleaned it out, and it's a better place for your children
It is.
and for them to raise their children, and on and on.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that I'm like most people. I grew up, I was born and raised in this area, and I remember the days where you could go on vacation and leave your windows up in the summertime and leave your doors unlocked and those kind of things. I don't think I would love it if we could, but I don't know that we'll ever get back to those kind of days. But I do remember those days. And that's kind of what we're striving to get back to, is a place where people feel safe, where people feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And as long as we have this drug problem, prescription pill problem, illicit drug problem here in this county, as long as we have that, then people don't feel safe. They don't feel secure, and they don't feel comfortable with leaving things unlocked, with leaving things
because
out.
with the drug problems, you can't leave your stuff unlocked, because people are going to come and steal what you got so that they can sell it to buy
Right.
more drugs.
Or trade it.
Exactly.
Yeah, either
or
one.
Trade it, yeah.
What we find more often now is that instead of people selling these things, they're taking it and just trading those things straight out for drugs. And so a lot of these drug dealers are
It
acquiring
looks like
equipment.
a pawn shop.
Right. Just about pretty much. So these drug dealers, a lot of times when you go to their house, they'll have equipment and have property, some of which you can prove stolen, some of which you can't. But obviously, if you go into a person's house that is unemployed and they have 5 televisions in their house, that's common sense just tells you that they're stolen from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those things, you have serial numbers where you can prove they're stolen. Sometimes you can't prove they're stolen. But it doesn't mean you don't know what's happening, that you don't know what's going on. And so sometimes even with that, they just take the property and trade it straight out for the drugs. But the ones that's kind of selling the property and moving the property, what we're finding is they're taking it away from this area and trading it somewhere else. You got big flea markets in South Carolina. You've got the Atlanta area where a lot of people take stuff to. You have the Chattanooga, Cleveland area where a lot of our property goes to. Most of our stuff goes south, though. Most of it goes toward Atlanta. And so that's kind of what we find, when we recover property and find things, and jewelry and televisions and ATVs and stuff of that nature. Most of the time, if you don't find it pretty quick, it goes south, and it's going toward the Atlanta area. Then it branches off into Alabama, South Carolina from there. And that kind of what happens to a lot of the property.
Okay, I asked you before we went on the air about how to let somebody know that you think that there is a horse or any other animals that are being at least neglected, if not abused.
Right. Well, one of the things that we have to realize is whatever jurisdiction you're in. Mm-hmm. If you're in Andrews or Murphy city limits, if that animal's within that jurisdiction, those things need to be reported to the police departments.
Right.
But anything out in the county where you suspect there's abuse or neglect, you can call our dispatch center, 835-3144, and report that to dispatch. And that way they can get an officer to speak with you. Officer will take a report on that, and then we'll go into an investigation to see what the situation there is. A lot of times with these animal abuse cases, sometimes they're easy to prove. There's obvious neglect, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to prove, depending on the age of the animal and things of that nature, because some things are just natural. A lot of times when people, for horses, for example, when they see a horse's ribs, they automatically say this horse is abused or neglected. But when you look into it, sometimes you may find a horse that's 30 years old,
And you're going to see the ribs.
and you're going to
there.
see it regardless. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do,
Yeah.
to
Because the muscle breaks.
right.
down. Yeah.
It's just like a person,
Right.
as a person gets older,
Unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. As a person gets older, you get frail, you get skinny.
Mm-hmm.
You don't build the mass that you do when you're younger. And so even with an older person, you see that kind of happen. Well, the same thing kind of happens in the animal world.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because something looks a certain way doesn't mean it is. But we're taking steps to try to help this problem. We're going in front of the commission board tonight and talking about we have money set aside through our budget for animal calls, through animal assistance. We have some money there that's already been budgeted, and we want to use that money to try to build large animal enclosures in the Marble facility
Yeah.
up where the shooting range is and the pond. We want to build an enclosure there to where when we do seize animals, if we seize horses or other livestock, that we have somewhere to keep that evidence until we can get that animal either returned back to its owner once it's healthy, or the court system, whatever they order to do with that animal. We can keep it there and keep it in a safe place and keep it healthy until it can get through the court system. What's happened in years past, and it's happened in other counties, and one of our neighboring counties are going through this right now, is when we seize a piece of an animal, it's technically a piece of evidence for a court case. Then it's our responsibility to take care of that animal until the court makes a decision what to do with it. Well, if we rent a pasture or if we pay somebody to keep that animal, if that case drags on for a year or 2 years or even longer sometimes, then you're having to pay somebody to feed that animal. You're having to pay somebody to store that animal. You're having to pay rent for that animal put in. And that can get up into the tens of thousands of dollars just expense on that animal. I know we had a case here a few years ago. I think it got up to near $25,000-$30,000, something like that.
Wow.
On just the money that the sheriff's office had invested in that animal by the time it went through the court proceedings. And so we've got another neighboring county now that's going through the same thing where they're getting on up to $20,000-$30,000 invested in the animal before it can get through the court system. So what we're wanting to do is use this money to build an enclosure to where we can take care of that evidence, take care of that animal, and we're not having to invest all this money into trying to keep this piece of evidence. But along with this, we're also looking at asking the commission board tonight to take another, $1,000 or so dollars out of this budgeted line item and letting us build some dog kennels behind the sheriff's office to where the same thing there, where we seize animals, whether it's a dog bite and we need to hold the animal in an enclosure for 10 days to make sure it's not rabid or anything like that. We have somewhere to put it. We have somewhere to put it and observe it. There's a lot of different times that we seize dogs, especially for whether it's attacks or whether it's vicious, dangerous dogs, things of that nature, that we may have to take that animal and hold it. Sometimes, or most of the time now, we're using like Valley River Humane Society or Logan's Run or some of these other places that we can use to house these animals. But if the officer's in the middle of the night and he has to seize an animal at 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it's hard to get someone from these other places to respond, to get on the telephone, to get in contact with somebody. So we need an enclosure there at the sheriff's office. We can at least keep it temporarily, if not permanently, there till we can find something to do with it, till the judge can make an order what to do with this animal. So we're just trying to look at those type of things and try to make good decisions for its cost effectiveness. We're not investing huge amounts of money in these things. And it is money up front to spend, but it saves money in the long run as to what happens there. So I think we're going to be able to accomplish all of this for probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000. So that just one animal case in itself can pay for the whole thing, versus paying $25,000-$30,000 for somebody to house this animal through the court proceedings. So,
True.
So we're just looking at different ways of like I say, being frugal with the money and trying to make decisions that will save the county money in the long run, plus be the best for the animal also. So you can observe it, what's happening to it, and you can maintain that animal while you're waiting on the court proceeding.
Well, like you're using the Marble facility for the garden as well. Would you use some of the interned?
Well, what we're doing a little bit different this year with the garden is we're not going to run a garden this year. Participation in the garden has been declining over the last few years, and we tried to operate it again last year just to see where we were at on it, just to see what the situation was. I think we only had one community person that participated in the garden program last year. The other part of the garden that was grown was for the inmates and for trying to offset some of the costs in the kitchen. But what we were finding was the very best we could do. I mean, trying to stay on top of it every single day working on this. We were still tons of vegetables going to waste. There were stuff that was just not getting utilized, was not getting used. Because it takes the kitchen staff, it takes the inmates, it takes all these people to try to process this stuff. With a jail facility, you can't can, so you can only freeze, and so there's a process you have to go through trying to make sure that's done correctly to where the food's not tainted, when you're feeding it to the inmates. So by the time we invested all these resources into this and supervision of the inmates and growing the garden and all these different things that happened, it wasn't cost effective.
Okay.
I mean, we can't say that we didn't save any money. I'd say we saved some, but it was just not cost effective for what we were trying to do.
Well, then that area could be perfect for your enclosure.
Well,
couldn't it?
yeah, there's a place if they were going to do that, but what we're going to do this year in replacement of the garden and is that we're going to have the inmates do an inmate work crew on the roadside.
Okay.
And so you've seen a lot in the newspaper lately about littering and about all the things that's going on with littering. So we've actually acquired a inmate work trailer from Franklin County, North Carolina, that used to do a roadside work crew that doesn't no longer do that. So we got their trailer. It's got a place for porta-john on it. It's got a place for water and for different things for hydration for the inmates. It's actually got an enclosure where you can store your tools and all your equipment in there that you need, and actually a place where you can put your bags of garbage in and things of that nature. So what we're going to concentrate on this year is once it warms up and spring gets here, is we're going to start utilizing that roadside work crew and start having our inmates out on places in the county where it is safe for them to work on the roads. 4 lanes, a good example, where you can get off the roadway a little bit and you're not got cars right on top of you, where they can pick up trash and help get some of the trash off the roadways. There'll be other secondary roads in the county we'll be able to use that on also, but we're obviously wanting to only do it in places that's safe for the inmates and safe for the work crews to do that. We certainly don't want to be out here causing accidents, and things of that nature. So that's something we're excited about, that we're hoping we may help with the littering problem and different things. And I think the people in the county would appreciate that, of seeing the inmates out working and doing things to beautify our county. So we'll not only be doing that, but we'll also be mowing again this year. We mow cemeteries and different things away from people's houses. We don't do private yard work or anything like that. We don't want our inmates around people's houses. But but for cemeteries and public places and things, we do utilize our mowing crew for that also. And of course, this year we've got Hanging Dog that's opening up, so the campground. So we'll also be utilizing inmate work crews for that also, of getting down there and helping getting the campground up and running and getting things trimmed out and mowed and all that kind of stuff, so that we can get the campground up and running this year. And I'm excited about that also.
Great.
And I want to urge everybody that's out there listening to this is probably going to be our one and only shot with the campground. So once it gets open this year, please utilize it, because if we don't use it, if people don't camp down there and don't utilize it, then the U.S. government will shut it back down. So.
And they won't reopen it again.
No. Once they shut it down again, it will not reopen. So this is basically our one and only shot to get this done. So I want to encourage the people out there to please use it this summer. Please get out there and utilize our campground if you want to keep it.
Okay, they've got grills and things out there.
They do.
Tables.
They do. We're actually opening up B Loop and C Loop. B Loop is down near the water as you go in the campground. It's the first loop on your left. A lot of people like to camp in that loop, because it does have water frontage, and people who have boats can bring them up to the campsites and things of that nature. They've got gravel padded areas. They got picnic tables and grills and stuff in the campsite tent sites. But also we're going to be opening up C Loop, which is all the way down near the boat ramp on the right. And the reason they decided to open it up was because of it has the station there that you can put water in your campers and dump your sewage and all those kind of things. And so in order to get that up and running, that whole loop needed to be up and running. So they decided to open it so that we have access to the dump station there. So we're excited about that. And C was one of the most popular loops right before they closed. So So people did like camping in there. So we're going to open it up in the B loop, or actually we're not opening it up, but the government is.
Right.
But we're assisting them in doing that, and going to open those 2 loops up. And I think once it gets open and people get in there and utilizing it, then they will realize what a resource it is for Cherokee County. Our neighboring counties, such as Graham County, I think they have 5 campgrounds in Graham County.
Wow.
And, this is the only campground in Cherokee County as far as the federal campground. So we certainly would like to utilize that and keep it open. And so, once again, I just want to encourage people to use that.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about real quick before we go today is scams that's going on out there. We have a lot of scams that's happening, and we have, of course, it's the time of year we get the IRS scam.
Right.
That people will be calling and telling you if you don't pay your taxes, there's going to be a warrant on you, and you have to send such amount of money to a certain place and all
Right.
that.
But the IRS does not call you.
They do not call. The
They
IRS.
send you nasty letters.
They send nasty grams is what I call them when they send to you. But the IRS does all their correspondence by mail. They do it all by mail. They set their appointments up by mail. They do all this by mail. And so unless you pick up the phone and call the IRS, you're not going to have a conversation with them by telephone. So the people out there needs to understand that when someone's calling you and telling you that there's a warrant for your arrest, or telling you that they're the IRS and you have to pay these things, don't fall for it. Don't panic, because it's not IRS. Most of these things are coming out of India. They're coming out of Africa. They're coming out of these foreign countries. And because it's international things, it's out of our jurisdiction. It's out of the federal government's jurisdiction, unless it's just huge amounts of money. And because it's out of everybody's jurisdiction, once you give them money, there's no way of recovering it. There's no way of getting it back.
Right.
So don't be sending money. Don't be giving them your bank account numbers and all those kind of things. But the other big scam that's been hitting a lot here lately that I do want to talk about, that we've not talked about on the radio, is a scam that's targeted toward widows and divorcees. And what this is, it's basically you meet with a conversation via internet, whether it's Facebook or some other social media site, and a person on the other end identifies themselves as a soldier, and they are stuck in a foreign country, their bank account's locked up, and they've fallen in love with you, and they want to come meet you, and they want to marry you, and all these kind of things. And what happens a lot of times is people wind up sending money to these, what they think are soldiers that's needing to get home, and they find out that they don't exist, that they're actually sending them to these foreign places, the same places that's doing the IRS scams, the same places that's doing all these other type of scams, the lottery scams, and all these kind of things. It's the same people doing it, same places. And this one lady I know in particular, she actually there was a couple different ones. One, supposedly there was a colonel that was stuck, and he was going to marry her when he got here, and he couldn't get back to the States. And there was a general that couldn't get back to the States, and I told them, I said, think about this. If you're a general in the military, you can find your way home. I mean, you there's ways you can get home, whether it's jumping on a military aircraft or a boat or whatever it may be. You're not going to get stuck in a foreign country. You can get home. And that's kind of things I want to just kind of let these people understand, even with military personnel. If you're a military officer in a foreign country, the U.S. government's not going to leave you stranded or stuck there. If you need to
Even
get home,
if you're enlisted,
that's
they're not
it.
going to leave
They're
you
not
there.
going to leave you there.
No.
They'll get you home, if you need home. And so that's what people need to understand. This whole story about locking up bank accounts, all these type of things, it's just a scam. It's just a fraud. And like I say, it's targeted mainly toward women. It's targeted mainly toward widowed women or divorcees.
Yeah. And they have photographs
Right.
of themselves, supposedly.
Right.
And they'll send you the photographs.
Right. Yeah.
And
a lot of these people who they say they are, the people actually exist.
Right.
They may say Colonel so-and-so, and Colonel so-and-so may actually exist. He may actually be a colonel in the Army, but that's not who you're talking to.
Exactly.
You're talking to somebody else who's stolen his picture, who's stolen his
Exactly.
identity.
Because it's way too easy to have photos stolen.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
All you do is copy and paste on the internet, and you've got a stolen photo there. So the thing about it is for people to use a little bit of common sense about this, and one person that I talked to about this, and you hate to be you hate to be brash with people and you hate to do these things, but sometimes that's what it takes to get them to wake up.
Yeah.
You know, and one lady I told here a while back, you know, why would a general who is in the military that you've never met before, who is overseas, that has all these money, that has all these resources, that has all these things, why does he want to come to Ranger, North Carolina, to marry you? You know, I mean, you know, you got to think about these things. You got to put a little common sense behind it. That these things are scams, that they are leading people down this path. But the scammers are very good. They're very good about these things. They know how to prey on people. They know how to prey on your fears. They know how to prey on your desires. They know how to prey on your greed. They know how to prey on all these different kind of things. And so once they figure out what your trigger is and what you're going to fall for, that's what they zero in on. And for some people, that may be greed. It could be a lottery scam that they think they're going to get a huge amount of money for nothing. For other people, it may be loneliness. It may be the fact that their husband had just died or they've been lonely for a while now, and they think somebody cares about them. They may prey on that. Or, you know, it could be a fear. It could be the fact of that this IRS scam's calling that you're going to get put in jail, you know, and they're afraid they're going to get put in jail. So they kind of figure out where you fit into this picture, and they target you on where you fit into this picture. So if you have any questions or have any doubts, please contact the sheriff's office, contact your local law enforcement agency. Talk to them about these things before you ever send any money, before you ever do any of these things. Because what you'll find out is, for those that's out there about this military scam, what you'll find out is he's going to be here next week and going to have, or should have been here this weekend, have Valentine's dinner with you, and right at the last minute something came up and he got diverted to go somewhere else and he couldn't make it, you know. Or he's going to be in the States for Christmas, or he's going to be in there for Easter, and then when Easter comes, well, he had to go somewhere else. He couldn't be there, and they just keep you stringing you along to get you to send more and more money. So just be sure and don't fall for those kind of things. Don't fall for that and send money to people that you shouldn't be sending money to.
All righty. Are we?
Yeah, I
Cool.
think it's good.
Okay, we're good. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for joining us with the sheriff.
Had a good time. Look forward to it next week.
Okay, good.